Did you get any of it?
No, it didn't record any of that.
Oh my gosh. So I'm going to be the intro on this one.
Okay, yeah, you intro it.
So we were just talking for about 30 minutes.
No, it wasn't that long.
About our past history and how we love each other and how I look at him as a little brother. We cried, we wept, we hugged, we man-kissed, and that's what you missed in the past 30 minutes. So,
anyway, guys, welcome back to Black Magick TV. God, that sucks, because that would have been gold. But at least I'm not crying on the podcast.
Dude,
nobody wants to see that.
We really were.
Yeah. So... With me, this is John Wells. We gotta impromptu quickly do this now. John is the man behind Torque Fest. He's the man behind him and his wife have a charity, Helping Hannah's Heart. I met John. You guys heard me talk about John if you listen to all the episodes. John is one of the people I talk about that never turned their back on me. Him and Kim. I mean, this guy literally would come to Kansas City in the middle of winter. If we had a shit show or not, I would didn't have a pot to piss in, and he would give me his last $100 so he would know that I wouldn't. Yeah, right. He always sent me off with something so I wouldn't be
destitute.
Yeah, so I wouldn't die in the streets.
Well,
but,
it's You've always been like a little brother to me.
Yeah.
And I love you, and I think that you're a good person, and even a good person can go through some rough times.
Right.
And you made a couple weird choices, but you came out of them, you learned from them. Some people don't.
Right. And we know a lot of people that didn't.
Exactly. And some of them aren't even here at all.
Right.
You know? And so, you can go down that road. You chose to go down the other path. And I remember when you were really big into AA. And I was like, I went home and told my wife, I'm like, Tyler's like full on, like talking about his sponsor. And so, I was like, I guess he's serious about it. I thought he was like kind of joking at first.
Yeah.
But I mean, if a program or some kind of new thought pattern is going to provide you a path to making correct choices or right choices or choices that are positive.
Right.
Go for it.
Right.
Do that thing.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't become toxic or, turn people off.
And I knew when to like step away from that world.
Yeah.
I knew when I was okay, and some people say you're never okay, but I got to a point where I couldn't hear the negative stuff that went along with going to those meetings. So after several years, I've just do my thing, but I just needed that kickstart. Like if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have made it this long without doing that in the beginning.
Right.
Because in my head, when I was still in jail, I was going to get out of jail. I was going to take the last few bucks I had, and I was going to go to Mexico or something. Like I was going to take off.
Okay.
That was my original plan before I met this guy in prison.
Do you speak Spanish?
No, not at all. I was just going to go. I was going to run for the border, though. Or go to I knew some Canadians. Like, I could have also hit up in Canada.
I don't know. You'd have to hide because they'd find you.
Yeah, I didn't want to go to prison for 20 years. Like, that was what was on the table. And I
get that.
I didn't want to do that at 29 years old.
I get that. And so again, I
guess
think
31,
you've made some now positive choices. And the positive choices aren't fucking glory bound. I mean, it's like it's the mundane bullshit of having to get up and fucking go to work every fucking day. And that is a positive choice. I know people don't want to do it. Nobody fucking wants to do it.
Nobody wants to do it.
And
keep talking. I'm listening.
All right. My dad told me life is a shit sandwich, and the goal is to take more bread than shit every day, because even the most powerful CEO has a fucking private jet and all that shit.
Yeah.
He still has to eat a bit of that shit sandwich, but his bread is this much and his shit is this.
Yeah.
Whereas the common man, it's just the opposite.
Right.
But everybody has to take a little bit of that shit sandwich.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're all doing. I mean, and when you're taking those positive steps, you're like, fuck, another bite of that shit sandwich, man. But it's better than not getting any shit at all.
Well,
you know,
I mean,
being fucking in
I think
jail or
I think it's
dead.
actually less of the shit sandwich that you're eating when you start making the positive steps, because it's all shit for a minute, because you're leaving absolute shit, which is like a life of crime, right? Like there's nothing positive. Like
exactly, there's nothing positive is going to come out of that ultimately.
Right, and then you're trying to break into another world which will have its ups and downs and hardships because of this prior world. Like that's real shit. People always go, well, it's your own fault. Well, yes, I understand that. I'm lucky as a felon to have had a trade already where no one cared. But had that not been the case, I would have had a way rougher time.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that. Like, no, it's very hard to get people in our country to second chances don't come easy, or anymore. It's hard for second chances to come at all for most people.
And what really bugs me is that people don't try to give people, because, and you know, if I had not known you prior,
right,
then, and if I just looked at your, you know, piece of paper that says, you know, this about you, I'd be like, I'm not sure if I want to hang out with this dude.
Yeah.
But I had already known you for years and years, you know?
Yeah.
And so I know you're a good person. I know you made some bad choices, but I know I'm going to stick with this guy because he is still a good person.
Yeah.
He just needs to have, and maybe you need to know, like, look, there are people that still love you and believe in you.
Oh, for sure.
And so there you go. And so hopefully that's what you needed to spur you, like, well, even though, you know, I've made these bad choices, there are still some people out there who still believe in me.
Yeah, I mean, Eric and Dave, really, they, when that first happened, a bunch of the guys were like, well, we need to get the money to get him out of jail. And Eric is like, no, we're not doing that at all. Like, he's going to sit there. Like, we can't.
He's got to learn.
And I've thanked him for that.
He's got to learn.
Yeah, if I would have got out then, if they would have just bailed me out, then I probably wouldn't be here today, dude. That's the truth. If you go to prison for that long, your odds of getting out are, answer Kim real quick.
Yeah, I got to answer the
It's
boss.
the wife.
What's up, baby?
Hey, I think I'm gonna go eat with the girls.
Yeah, do it.
Come back and
I think
get the money and stuff.
I think that's good.
Okay, so you know how to get. But I need to give you the key.
Okay.
John has to answer Kim calls.
All right, so yeah, I'm good. Go ahead and take the key with you because I don't need to get in there.
You don't need to pay anybody. What if people need to get paid?
Honey, they can wait till you get back. You're going to be gone an hour and 15.
Okay.
They can wait.
Now I got to edit this part out.
All right.
They're almost done out in here.
What? They're almost done? Dang. I cracked that whip on Mike V and he's like whoosh, cracking everybody else's crack. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't see that Mike V.
Oh, Mike V's in the trailer. He's the one directing everybody. So
He's freaking awesome. That's
anyway, drama at the show. All right, so no. It's cool. So how about you this? How about you leave your key underneath the computer?
if I leave the key underneath.
My computer.
Oh, okay. I can do that. Okay.
All right, baby.
Okay.
Love you. Bye.
It's okay though.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
All right, so that is an example of what the show is like. I run this vintage Torque Fest, and you don't get 4 minutes without something. Like
Right.
I had to answer that because the big secret of this show is that we have to pay people to actually do stuff here.
Yeah.
And it's not a secret. Nobody does, no offense, but the volunteering thing, we used to, in the beginning of our show, we had over 100 volunteers. We were struggling to get 32 this time.
Yeah.
You know, and so in 15 years, you've seen this shift of like, I don't know, man. It's very discouraging, but it's like, I don't know if it was COVID or, you know, but it's before COVID even. The shift on people's mentality of like,
Helping out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like they don't understand like what it takes to put something like this on. And
And when you had more, it was easy because it was like everybody volunteered for 4 hours.
2.
Right, 2 hours. And now you're reliant on people.
Well, now you have to pay people
Right.
to sit here for 6 hours.
You got your core guys.
Yeah,
that
and they don't. Nobody's gonna do this stuff for free. Nobody's gonna like. Oh yeah, I'll give you 15 hours for my weekend. Who's gonna do that? No
Yeah.
one. And you know they're gonna come
me.
up.
That's it.
You're the one. You're the one. And that's honestly that's one of the reasons why we've killed a couple of our other shows, and I'm not sure how long this one's gonna last.
Right.
But it's everything has a time span, and we're gonna see how long this one
Right,
lasts.
and
I
we
don't
were
know.
talking on the one that didn't have audio there about how you and Kim get married young, you move to California, you're buying and selling comics for a living, you're not working jobs, you're going to Japan, buying toys, coming back prior to eBay. And then is it when Kim gets married that you guys come back to or when Kim gets pregnant that you guys decide to come back to Iowa?
So our daughter was 3 years old, 4 years old, and we didn't want to raise her in California's school system.
Right.
We couldn't afford private schools in California. People don't realize how bad California school systems are.
Yeah.
They're not great.
Right.
And so my wife's mom lived in Iowa, and so we're like, oh, wait, they're like the third best school districts in the country. And so we just happened to come to the best school district in Iowa. So you're like getting the best of the best, and it's public education.
Right.
And so, we were really fortunate to be able to, make that move. And the stress of living out in California, it was pretty tough, trying to pay the bills, You don't have to work so hard when you're living in Iowa compared to...
Right, because you're in the Quad Cities area,
Yeah,
right?
I live in Davenport area, yeah.
Right. And so you come back, you realize I can still buy and sell comics
A lot easier.
a lot easier.
Yeah, because your insurance is cut in half.
Right.
The trash bill is cut by 75%. You're like, wow, I can
Because
live
you
like
just
a
had to
king.
get those at that time. You just needed to get the shit from Japan here, and that
Right.
was like, that was pretty much guaranteed gold back then, right?
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
that was big money.
So yeah, it was doing the pre-eBay, and the big distributors finally caught on to what I was doing.
Right.
And then it became corporate and there's no money involved anymore.
Right.
But what I was doing was going to shops, and this is before you could just look this stuff up on Google.
Right.
And I knew where all these things were. And so when a guy would be like, hey, do you think you could give me a Garada K7 Jumbo Machinder? I'm like, well, yeah, I know where one is, but it's going to cost you $4,000. Okay. Because these guys were overnight millionaires because they're .com millionaires. And so I knew where one was because I was just in Japan 3 weeks ago sitting on the shelf for $1,000.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, at that time, I once flew to Japan for $444 from San Francisco. I know, it's crazy to think. And at one time I went to Japan, and 10 times in 1 year, and I had so much money. I was having, because you can only take 10 grand cash.
Yeah.
I was taking postal money orders, which you can get cashed at the post offices over there.
Yeah.
U.S. Post Office can get directly cashed at Japanese post offices, and it directly goes into Japanese yen. So it's like a little trick that I had discovered.
You found a workaround the system.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
And so that's what all
So you're going over
entrepreneurs
there.
do.
You were taking, that's cash. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I would go over there and I would spend sometimes, 20, 25 grand.
Right.
And as fast as I could come back and sell that stuff, and I'm making money off that investment. And I'm serious. I went to Japan 10 times in 1 year.
Right.
As fast as I could sell the toys and all that junk, because again, I was doing shows every single week up and down the West Coast from Seattle to Arizona.
so you fly to Japan in the middle of the week.
Yep.
Because that's when all the shops there are open.
Yeah,
You go
yeah,
around,
yeah.
buy toys.
Yep.
Get on, come back.
Yeah, and then I would also sell at these shows in Japan to make money over there as well. Because
So you would bring some American
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely.
That they could, so you were double dipping.
Yes. So I would set up at Super Festival. I would set up at Wonder Festival. I would set up at Tokyo Comic Con. And so it's like, Yeah. I'm gonna make money there. I'm gonna make money coming back.
Yeah.
And people are like, how do you get your stuff over there? You just put them in a freaking bag, man.
Yeah.
And so like Hot Wheels weren't distributed over there yet. Okay.
Okay.
You think Hot Wheels are freaking everywhere, right?
Right.
Well, they weren't. And so I'm like, I'm in the shops and I'm seeing Hot Wheels for $5, $10, the equivalent. I'm like, these are what I see sitting on the Walmart shelves, man. Why are they trying? And they're selling them, right? So at the end of these toy shows in America, I'd be like, hey, bud, take a lesson from Tyler. I didn't know you then. Yeah. But I'd be like, how much you want for the whole table? The whole table? And this is at the end of the show. So they're like, this is the crap.
They're ready to cash out on the crap.
And they're like, 50 cents a piece? I'll give you 33 cents a piece. Okay. So, I'm spending a couple $100, get all these Hot Wheels. I put them in my duffel bag. And I'm taking them to the show, and I'm selling them for $4. Yeah, $4 or $5 a piece equivalent. Yeah. And they're just eating them up, right?
But at that point, you were just going to be there anyway. So
exactly.
Doing that was nothing.
Yeah. So you're paying for your airfare by setting up at the show.
Do you ever think that there's some Japanese people that are like sitting around? They're probably like, 50s, 40s, going, "Fuck, you remember the fucking Hot Wheels dude that they used to come to the Comic Con?"
It's funny you say that because the last time I went to Japan, so I saw a dude, and we locked eyes, and it was like, how do I know? And I was like, oh wait, you're the dude that would always sell the Godzilla toys, and he was like, and we started talking like in his broken English. Yeah. Because I've been to Japan 40 times and I know 40 words. You know, like, and I know stupid shit like, Simasan, oki hako desu. And you're like, what? What does that mean? I need a big box. Yeah. I know the things I need to know. So like, how do you say a big box? And that's what I do. Is like, I just wing it, And, for the most part, anywhere you go around the world, people are going to be cool as long as you're cool to them. Yeah. And so.
Now, at a certain point, that started dying off.
And you switched.
And you switched to doing car shows and being a Ratfink distributor. Because Ratfink tied into.
Because I was already bringing in over the Moon Eyes Ratfink stuff. Right. Was over there in Japan. Right. And so I was. Exactly. So I was bringing over all the Ratfink stuff. And I had these customers telling me, you should sit up at some of these car shows because nobody has this. Yeah. And they'll pay more. Right. And so I was getting like all this Moon Eyes Japan Ratfink stuff that I would pick up over there for, like 8, 10, 15, whatever. And then I bring it to the car shows. I'm selling it for 50, 100. You're like, oh shit, these guys really are rabid for Ratfink. You know? And then that's how I met you. It was like, setting up at the World of Wheels and at Bartle Hall in Kansas City.
Me being poor and trying to figure out how can I get stuff for free. And it's like, cool. Because you never, like back then it was never cash. Eventually you would like give me money because we would do so good. Absolutely. But at the beginning it was like, here, have this old issue of Dice I can't sell, and here's this thing I can't sell. Just have all these those bootleg movies, dude. John and I used to sell bootleg DVDs of car movies to car people. It still blows my mind that people like $20 for a movie, and it's like, but that was before YouTube, right? And before streaming services, and none of that stuff existed.
Exactly, and that's the thing is so weird to me. And they're talking about how right now it might shift. They don't know what's going to happen because the streaming services are getting so expensive again. Yeah, that people are like, you know what? And they're also not trusting all these cloud devices, whatever that is. And they want actual physical media.
Oh, I know.
And so it's like my daughter is now collecting CDs. She buys vinyl.
Dude.
Because it's cheap and you know that it's not going to get lost.
I pay for my records at the record store because I don't have much use for old records. Like I'll get like reissues of stuff. Or like I want something I can actually really listen to. Like if it's
so wait, is it because you don't want to have a scratched up copy?
Mostly, yes. Okay. Because I want it to.
You want to hear
good.
it.
I want to be able to listen to it.
Okay, I got you.
Now there's certain things I have. Like I have. There's one, like I need to make a short list of weird things I need. because like I have every Bob Seger record but one.
Is it the Bob Seger sound system?
No, I have that.
All right.
It's called Noah. It is the system. It's the
Okay.
But it's yes, it's Bob Seger's system. It's called Noah. It's a really weird record.
Okay.
He hates the record. It's never, you can't find it anywhere. There's a couple records that he hates. I know way too much about Bob Seger. Dude.
I love that guy.
I do too. But one of the other few moments I've cried in public was when I saw Bob Seger play on his farewell tour.
Oh,
I was
wow.
with Mindy, and she's like
Okay.
looking at me like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I just never."
What song?
Just all of it, like the
Oh,
whole
really?
time.
Okay,
like
okay,
I was just
alright,
like,
cool.
"Oh my god!" Because I paid $400 for 2 seats.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. I
Good
I
baller.
could not go. I was poor. This was like 8 years ago. It was the very last row at the Sprint Center in downtown. It was a folding chair behind the regular. I mean, I was in
Wow.
the fixed income section, dog. Like everyone around me was like 97. And my dad's buddy worked security, and one song in, like halfway through the first song, I get a text that says, "Go downstairs right now, run if you have to, and get to this ticket counter." And I went there, and he got me, like, if stage is here,
Yeah.
like in the, the floor goes up, stage level is the first, the stage was the same height as the first, like, actual level.
Right.
And where they have, like, the handicap seats and the
Yeah.
folding chairs, we got right there. I mean, I went from here to that door to Aldo playing the saxophone,
Wow,
and Bob
dude.
coming over and singing with him. It's like,
Wow.
whoa. And it was crazy. Like, I couldn't, like, it was, to this day, the best concert
That's
I've
cool.
ever gone to.
That's really cool.
And but I'm like on the hunt. But to pay for my records, I go to the swap meet in town, the weekly swap meet, and I buy CDs. I'll buy bags of records. Like those records I put up the other day.
Right.
I was buying bags in boxes of records at the swap for like whatever. Just thumbing through, looking at titles.
Sure.
Checked a couple, they're okay condition, right? I then take them over to my buddy's record store. Frank digs through the pile over the week.
He says, "This is good.
This one,
yeah,
this
yeah,
one,
yeah.
this one, this. Hey, you got $200 store credit. Cool. I'll buy some records now." And then I took all those records, and Frank's like, "What are you gonna do with these?" He's like, "These are all kind of shit." I was like, "I'm about to sell them," and I posted them up. And like when you hit me up, it was like, "Dude, these were like dollar records at best."
He puts the thing that saying $100 vinyl box, and I'm like, I immediately tell him like, "Dude, what up?
Why
Vinyl,
didn't you tell me? Some rich dude showed up in like an AMG, a G-Wagon, and he like paid me without even, he never asked me a question. Never asked me nothing, was just like, "I'll take them." I'm like, "Okay." I never said anything about the condition. I just said,
Wow.
"Box of vinyl, $100."
Huh.
And so like a guy could, some of them, they just needed to be cleaned very
Sure,
well.
sure.
But it's like for a $5 record, who does
Yeah,
that? You know what I mean?
I was lucky enough. A buddy of mine, he had scored a bunch of metal records,
Ooh.
but they had all been water damaged. Like it was
But-
I cleaned them.
Right.
And it's the vinyl sounds just fine.
It's
the
the
covers
covers.
are the covers are screwed.
At
But
the record
I'm like,
store,
okay.
I walked in there one day, and sometimes I'll catch Frank going through like a hot unit, and I can be like, "Ooh, I want that's." He's like, I'll see someone be like, "I want that one," and he's like, "I can't." This is an expensive, like the Bob Seger one. It was like $100 record,
Whoa.
right? But it was like cheaper than Discogs by a lot.
Okay.
And he's like, "This is expensive, right?" I was like, "I didn't fucking ask if it was expensive, dude. I'll figure it out. Like, I want that one." But I'll catch him. But he pulled out. He goes, "Look at this," and it's a copy of "God Save the Queen." But the one where they had to put the one track on the sticker or whatever, Frank was telling me, is like they forgot to put one of the songs on the jacket, so they put a sticker on it. But he's like, and he flips it over, and the whole back of it is the cover's rotted away, and it's like fucked. He's like, "Dude, this is worst case scenario." He's like, it wouldn't be bad if it was like a second pressing of it, but it's like the first one,
Yeah, because I don't really go into the whole like reading the matrix numbers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That I just want to listen to the albums,
Right.
And listen, and I understand the collectability.
Oh.
And I understand like, I've got an original, first pressing of Dark Side of the Moon,
Right.
like cash in, but I more like, for me personally, I want to just enjoy the sound.
Yeah.
And that's
That's
what
why
That's why you did the
occasionally
reissues.
I've lucked out. I really have just dumb lucked out because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm used like Frank is teaching me what to look for and what he wants.
Right.
I need to take you there next time you're in town because
Absolutely,
you
yeah.
love it. Like their rock and roll section is most people's like rarities bit.
Okay,
Their
okay.
whole rock and roll section. It's
right.
crazy what they have.
What about the jazz? Do they have?
They have a lot of jazz too.
Okay.
Frank likes jazz because
All right.
Jim, the other owner, he hates jazz music. Well, he likes some jazz, but Frank, or every time I go in there, Frank's playing something, and Jim will come in and be like, "What are we listening to?"
So this guy, in the background of some video that I posted, John Coltrane is on, and he's like, "What's that Kenny G bullshit?"
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck you, learn some jazz,
Learn
man.
some jazz, man.
Yeah, like
you know me, dude. It's all rock and roll.
it's like, maybe when you get older, you'll. You'll...
So there's like weird shit that like I've been on the hunt to get every Van Morrison
Oh,
vinyl.
okay. All right.
And then like but Moondance is the hardest one to find. Like,
Why?
An old copy of. I guess because they like people have them and don't
they won't
get rid of them.
Yeah.
Or they were just like played so much
Are
they
you?
got destroyed.
Is it Astro Weeks or is it?
No, I have
Moondance?
Astro. I have like
All right.
every copy of Astral Weeks.
Okay.
My Van Morrison thing is pretty weird too. Like,
Okay.
Frank's always like, he'll like message me like, I got him some Van Morrison, and it's like a whole collection. It's like I need that one, and that one.
Huh?
But he
and-
does me right. Like he really takes care. That's the cool thing. Like I only buy records there. Like
Right.
some people are like, what the fuck? And I'm just like, hey man, I went to all the other record stores in town. They treated me like a dirtbag. They don't want
Yeah.
to deal with me. I'd take records there. They're like, we'll give you $5 for the box. And I'm
Right.
like, no, dude. Like I want, like Frank is fair. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if I can double up, which is something I
Sure.
learned from you. If you can double up, you're never going wrong.
And it's all about volume,
Right.
And that's what I learned about you.
Yeah.
From you, you're like, you just got to turn that money,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah,
It
so
will,
if I can buy 2 boxes for $100, I got more than $100 on store credit left with a box and some other, and I got CDs and other shit.
And then you sell
I just
that box for $100.
Sell that box for $100. I'm way in the green on
Absolutely.
my $100 investment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
And I
totally-
get cool vinyl all the time.
all right. So I got to ask you, if you could have somebody on your podcast, are you gonna have Tony Iommi? Are you gonna have?
I would be Bob Seger.
Well, all right. I guess that makes sense.
But if you take him off the table, like musician wise,
Yeah.
like any musician, like alive or dead, or just like that's still alive.
No, it's gonna be alive.
Man.
Because you'd want, because I've listened to a lot of interviews like with a lot of different people,
Yeah.
and you'll almost want to have somebody like I'm not saying I like Ted Nugent, but he's so good at stories.
Ted Nugent pops in because I really like Ted Nugent. Bob Seger pops up because he never really did interviews like that. Like,
Did you watch that one with Bob Late Night with Bob Costas? You gotta watch that, dude.
I've never
Bob
seen that.
Costas interviewed Bob Seger back in like 1990.
Okay.
And it was like, I think it was one of his first, he was getting ready to retire. He hadn't put out
Yeah.
stuff, and dude was cool.
Yeah.
And, you could tell Bob Costas was a fan,
Yeah.
and you need to watch
Dude,
that.
there's so much lore around them, like the Eagles singing the backing vocals on Fire Lake.
Oh,
on
wow.
Against the Wind. That's
Okay.
the Eagles doing the backing
Okay,
vocals.
okay.
Dude. Like it's crazy because Glenn Fry is from Michigan.
Okay.
So he would hang out.
Right.
And he's on like
I got
the
you.
early Seeger shit. He was around helping when he did that because they were like teenagers in the mid 60s or whatever.
That's wild.
But I mean, that's a guy who spanned everything.
Yeah.
More so than the Stones. Like he started playing garage rock and then just evolved. Like
And then
the like a rock thing. Who doesn't know that in America?
Chevy approached him about using that song in their commercial,
Yeah.
big promotion campaign. And he told this on Costas. He said, I never lent my songs to any commercial project, but I'm from Detroit, and I knew that they were having a hard time, like across the board.
Right.
Detroit was having, because
Right.
the Japanese were kicking our ass.
Right.
And so they had this campaign, and they brought it to me, and they showed me the commercial with the Like a Rock song. They said, you know what? If all I have to do to try to help the community is give a song that I wrote, and he's like, And I have people to this day who come up to me and say, Like a Rock, man, that really made a big difference in my life because they're steel workers and they're auto workers and they're and it's really cool to see the power of music make an influence like that and the ripple effect that goes around, you know. So I think Bob Seger's pretty cool.
No, he rules.
I mean,
but I love Nuge, dude. People like in the modern day, a lot of people get mad at me, but those first two Nuge records,
dude,
are
Stranglehold. To this day, when it comes on, my friend Marty Garner, he can't stand Ted because of his political views.
Right.
And I'm like, dude,
which haven't changed since he started playing music, probably.
You know, and so I'm like, who cares, right? I mean, you can agree or not agree, whatever. Bottom line is, Ted Nugent can play the fucking guitar.
Yeah.
And Stranglehold is one of the best songs of the 70s. Period.
Dude, I think that both those first records, was it Nugent and Free for All?
Yeah.
Like those two records
are
like...
No, it's good stuff.
It's like, dude, Snakeskin Cowboy.
And I don't know why people... I mean, in this world, especially with the whole cancel things and all that kind of stuff, people can't separate the art from the artist.
Right.
But, you know...
But then it's hard in, like, scenarios, like, where do you draw the line?
Exactly.
Because I live in a town where the fucking football team and all the fans tomahawk chop to Gary Glitter's Rock and Roll Part 1. Meanwhile, that dude just... we were talking about how he broke parole on his child molestation thing not long ago. And it's like, oh, like, you guys are still rocking Gary Glitter?
And... you're doing something that's culturally inappropriate.
That thing is like, you're never going to change that in Casey.
But it's like, it's the hypocrisy.
Yeah, it's like, but
you pick and choose what you like. Yes.
Yeah, it's the pick and choose.
It's like,
of
come
it all.
on, dude. Just let everybody do their thing. And if you're offended, I get it. Because I say stupid shit. I do things that my kids are not happy with.
Oh, well, we're offensive, so we can't, like... That's what I tell people. I was like, you can't be offensive and then get offended. Like, I'm over it. I've
Truth.
And I've been telling people, like, Matt gets on me sometimes, Nikki, because he's like, you're kind of on that, like, not giving a fuck mode about a lot of things. And I'm like, dude, you don't get it. You live in a small... where you guys live, you don't get it, because where we live, it's the most radical of this side and the most radical of this side, and they won't just leave you alone.
Right.
It doesn't matter what I do, because I won't claim allegiance.
Yes.
Then they won't leave me alone.
And I think for the most part, those two sides, that's 10-15% on each other's side, right? And you've got 75% of the public is in the middle on the spectrum, of course.
They're in between that spectrum, right.
But there's like, just leave us the fuck alone.
Yeah.
Just let me do my thing. And if you don't jive with me, then cool. You just be like, that guy's a weirdo.
Wait, the other day, somebody told me, they're like, well, it didn't have anti-Semitism on my 2024 bingo card.
Well, it's a weird world, and
dude, it is a weird world. But also, like, weirdly enough, like, now you've had to switch from the car shit back to comic books and toys and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And up to where you're like doing. You're throwing conventions now throughout the Midwest and doing that. But so John and I are hanging out. I've known him for maybe like a couple years. We're hanging out. It's Greaserama. I'm excited because I've worked hard, which means I get to spend all day with John, and I'm going to get some cool t-shirts. John's brought me something. We're going to talk shit to people like we do. We're just talking shit, having fun. Like,
he talks the shit and I just laugh.
He just laugh. John gives me the hot gossip for the car culture throughout the entire Midwest.
Yes.
But then John, one year, he tells me about he never opened up about Hannah before, and you start telling me about Hannah and about the heart disease and the surgeries and what she was going through and what
Right.
you guys were facing, and that you had this idea
Yeah.
to put this car show on.
Yeah, and because I'd already been doing these different car shows and all this kind of stuff, and so when our kid was born with major heart problems, we were not doing well financially at all, and so we had to think of a way to these guys. They said they'd support us if we actually put on a car show, and it was Los Punk Rods, and it was Cheaters Car Club out of Milwaukee, but it was Punk Rod Todd.
Right.
It was Todd himself.
Yes, you told me, and then I immediately found Eric and told Eric, and he took me, and then I told Todd.
Yeah.
And then Todd. Which I was, him and I and Eric stood there, and it was like, you got to give him some money.
So I'm going to cry thinking about Todd. I can still remember him coming up on his bike, and him and his accent, man.
Wow.
So if you had the money, because
I remember exactly what he said. He asked you, if you had the money, would you actually put the show on?
Yeah, if you had the money, in his accent, man, and it's absolutely. But I think it was, I think we needed $4,000
to rent the facility, right?
Exactly.
That was the whole deal.
That was the thing. It's like I don't have that money.
Right.
But if you had the money, would you do it? And I said, yeah. And he just rides off.
Yeah.
He didn't say a fucking word. He just rides off. I was like, that was weird. And then he calls me like on that Tuesday after the show, and he's like, "Hey, John, we as a club made a decision, and it probably wasn't as a club.
No, we made that decision that day, right?"
And he's like, "We're gonna give you that money," and I said, he's like, "But you had to pay it forward," and I love Todd.
I mean, dude, I just spent all last weekend. Johnny got Todd's old truck back.
Right.
And Eric and I, I mean, I'll lay a little shade on those fuckers, but like, you saw that photo that had everyone but me in it.
Oh,
but
man, you put all that work in there.
Johnny, they were down there working, and Eric and I jumped in, and we're like, no, you're gonna, like, to me and Eric, it was important, right? Like,
absolutely,
this needs to go. This should be at your car show tomorrow. It's like a weird thing, man, where all that shit's changed. That's a off-camera conversation, but we got. I was very proud. Like, fuck them for not. Fuck all them for not like even acknowledging me that day or even saying anything about it. But like, I felt good, and Johnny thanked me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was nice to see Todd's truck on the road again and running and driving.
But that guy, he was so genuine, and he would tell you exactly what he thought. And you may not be prepared to hear it, but he had a lot of wisdom and a lot of just like cut to the fucking bone. And the bullshit's aside, this is it. And it's so great. And I would call him and I'd be like, hey, this and this and this happened. And he's like, well, tell that guy to fuck right off. You know? And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. And I said, well, I really can't do it. He's like, well, in your way, you do it.
Yeah.
And that's,
that's how you do it.
And I can still hear his voice every now and then, man, just because I would call him to get advice.
Yeah.
And, and it's good to have people like that in your life that you can actually, on a professional level, and, here, this guy's done one of the most successful events in the Midwest. Can I pick his brain? And he let me. And he gave me the time.
Well, there was one year when we came up when it was still in Makokada.
Yeah.
Not the year that the band played, but the year after that when my back was all jacked up. But like not paid attention, and I just was in the back of Cosgrove's car just sucking down these pain pills they'd given me. And I probably almost overdosed that day, honestly, because it's the middle of the night and I'm hurling and puking. And then Todd and Jeff came to me. They're like, dude, we got to talk to you. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, dude, it was an actual accident. Like, I just took too many pills.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I hate pills. And I just didn't realize that the car ride felt much longer than it was, right? Like, in hindsight, Eric was in his square car. I probably could have just rode with him,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But, yeah, he ruled, man. He ruled
that,
a lot.
I missed
he told
that,
me when I started getting in serious trouble, he was like, dude, you don't, like, I was on I'd been on probation a couple times, but now I was on like last probation, like last
double secret probation.
Like this probation was very serious and very intense. And he's like, you're not going to fight. You can't change now, man. Like, fuck them. Like, don't change who you are. Like, yeah, don't do this dumb thing again, but like, don't change who you are. So I just never did. I just still, but the straight shooter thing, like I picked up on that from him, and it's hard to not, which is probably why you and I have remained so close, because I call you and it's like cut and dry, but then you'll just be like, okay, I gotta go, and then you just hang up, and it's like I already know, like, oh, whatever happened just in that moment, you gotta go, like it's nothing personal. Like,
and I think that a lot of people, especially in today's society, can't handle. They think you're an asshole, or they think that you're uncaring or whatever, because you are curt and you don't have a lot of time to fluff up the answer. You know, I'm going to tell you no, but instead of saying, well, at this time, I'm thinking that we should probably hold off because this, it's still a no. Yeah. And some of us just say, no.
Yeah. I can't, I don't have time to, I'm a body man. I can't formulate all those words in between.
Like, yeah. And it's like, I have a lot of people that don't like me because of the way I say no.
Right.
And I understand I'm abrasive and I come off like an asshole, but that's my problem. And I understand that. I get it. I mean, I'm an asshole. Yeah. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to take the time to, sugarcoat stuff.
Right.
I could, I guess. I could try.
Right, but for what? I feel the same way. It's hard, and it's made things hard. And there's certain times where it's like, oh, maybe I should have. There's certain people you'll do it for, and that's the people that matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like asking for help. I was telling Matt about this. Like it's asking for help isn't
a sign of weakness.
It's not hard. It's finding the right people to ask for help. Right. Because when you've asked so many of the wrong people for help, then you go, well, nobody's gonna fucking help me.
Yeah, and when I was dealing with all that stuff with Hannah, we had all these medical bills. I looked at it as a sign of my pride, my manhood, that I couldn't provide for my family. Right. And I looked at it as a sign of weakness for asking for help. It is not a sign of weakness to ask for help. It is actually a sign of like, I'm going to do what's right for my family, and I'm going to get my family out of this situation. And if it means I got to ask Tyler and people, then I'm going to do it. And I'm getting a call from Mitch, so I bet this is going to end right now. What up? I'm over here with Tyler. What's up? We need to roll.
No, I'm just wanted to know where your cart was, just because I was going to start roaming around, making sure we got everything.
Okay, my cart is on the opposite side of stage 2, hidden behind one of those buildings.
Okay, and I'm going
Second intermission.
on stage 1, right?
The banners on stage 1 can be taken down. Yes.
Just before somebody steals them.
Yeah, absolutely. And is everybody is the trailer packed?
I think I haven't been there. I was walking around looking for shit. They had everything that was inside in there.
Okay. All right. I'll head it back over.
All right, cool.
All right.
And I know. Is your goal to just get everything done tonight?
Well, as much as possible, of course. Yeah.
If we can get everything done tonight, I don't know. We'll talk.
I mean, you get a hotel, so you might as well stick around. But I mean, if you want to go home, I'll just it's no big deal.
I know. My issue is, as soon as I leave here, I'm immediately in DVR mode because I'm so backlogged.
Gotcha.
Dad stuff, and then going to Mexico shit that I'm gonna have to fucking work all day.
I get you.
Feel somewhat better. So
I get you.
I'm not saying I will, but I just wanted to see where we were at tonight.
All right. I'll head over. All right. Later. All right.
All right, I'm gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, I definitely got to go.
So, anyways, to wrap it all up, it's from someone who's been here as your friend, you know, and I love you, and your family's always everyone. Like, your extended family all knows me, and then I know all these people.
Yeah.
Like, I know so many people. I come up here and I forget how many people I know.
Absolutely.
For so long. But, dude, on the counter end of how you probably feel, like, to know that no matter, like, even though I was a shitbag, right? And, like,
You weren't a shitbag.
I was. But...
Never to me.
Right, but to like, it was like, and I told, you know, it was my way of like doing something good, right? Was like, I knew that like, if I was helping here, or helping promote, or helping you make those, like, all this, I've told people, this started years ago. I just didn't have the means.
Right.
Because you put a camera in my hand and we're like, we're making
Yeah.
DVDs.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other thing we'll talk about
Right,
sometime.
right.
But to like know that like this for sure probably like, I mean, Hannah just graduated high school.
Yeah.
Dude. And like, it's like, whoa.
I
Like
know.
to go from there to here is like, I mean, she was a baby. She was tiny.
Yeah, 3 years old. man.
Right. And so now it's like, whoa, like we actually, this worked. Like,
Yeah.
this whole thing. And not only, and then it went from not just you guys to like other people.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
So
I
it's
mean,
like-
I'm very humbled, and you know, it makes me weary thinking about doing this again. But you know, it's like Hannah herself, because my wife and I have had serious talks about killing this show because we've
Right.
killed some of the other shows, and Hannah herself has said, "But what are you going to do to help others if you're not doing this?"
Right.
And we're like, oh, you know, she gets us, you know,
Yeah.
right there, man. And so it's like,
Well, as being the recipient, like, I mean, there's a part that, you know, it's like, would I have made it this long without
right,
help in some way? And there's probably several other kids who would not have made it.
Right.
If it wasn't for you being able to help them. And that's why I tell people, when you give, when you're giving, you know what I mean? When I'm showing up and giving you a gas tank to auction off,
right.
that's because I know that direct money is turning around, and there's no employees for your, you know,
Right.
There's no employee, there's no marketing manager, it's not some giant non-for-profit. It's a literal grassroots charity where the money that gets given turns around and gets
Given to the
given
families.
to the families
Yeah.
and used to do good things. And I think that's why you have such like the amount of money people spend at that art auction is just amazing to me.
Yeah.
And like the amount of people that from all over the country that
Donate,
art pieces is just, it's incredible, man.
Yeah.
And it just shows that like you can still do absolute like true good things in the world. You know what I mean?
Well, I thank you for saying that. And it is very humbling, but it's, you know, it's also, it's exhausting, man.
I know.
And so, you know, you got to find that balance. And that's why so many of these things that are good, they kind of implode after a while because there's not a support system.
Right.
And so, you know, like I don't want to bag on Los Punk Rods, but when Punk Rod Todd died, they lost their leader.
Right.
And you have to have that leader, and you have to have somebody captaining the ship saying like, hey, we're getting off course. Let's get back on course. And, you know, there was, you know, different personalities in that. When Punk Rod Todd was there, he was the personality.
Oh, he was the man.
And he made sure everybody knew it.
Yeah.
And if you didn't like it, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
And that was great. And I took that from him as well. And the Punk Rod Todd ethos of, it's my party. You want to show up to my party, you're playing by my fucking rules.
Right.
And I've tried to apply that. And of course, over the years, you know, people are like, you sold out. It's not the same. Yeah, you're right. It's not the same. But look at what we've done.
Yeah.
Over $200,000 directly to families who are going through the same shit as us. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, and you know, and I know it's been a thing, and I hate it that people at all in any way, because being as close to you guys as I am, you know what I mean? I know how rough it was. Like, this does not pay you money. Like, you had to.
You can yell to the.
No, I
nobody
understand,
believes
and
it.
they'll never get it. Like, you've like, which is why I would come, and when I came, I wasn't working the door. I was helping you set the show up, but my specific job for all those years when you were still selling all that car merchandise was to sell that merchandise
exactly.
because no one else, you couldn't do it.
And you had the expertise
And I was
to do
the
it.
only other person that could do it besides Kim. And she had to sell the show shirts, you know? And now it's cool to see, like, I was like, I just stood there smiling when I saw it, and it's like, you've gone from like where we were at, you know what I mean, selling all this shit that we had no stake in, right? To like, it's an entire merch booth of vintage Torque stuff, which is like cool. Yeah. I really dug that. I mean, there's been a zine. You did the zine. You've done it all, dude. Yeah. Like, you really have done it all. Like,
yeah, you know, I have been lucky enough to be able to do what I've wanted to do in my life without much, you know, like pressure from the man or whatever. And so I'm very blessed because it's been people like you who have been able to give me the opportunities to do that.
Yeah.
So I love you.
I
appreciate you. I respect you. And I just wish nothing but the best for you, man.
That's a mutual feeling.
All right, I got to go.
Yeah, thank you guys. John's got to go. You gotta follow Helping Hand as Hard as the charity.
And I think you missed the whole cake thing.
You missed the cake thing.
I was eating cake.
Yeah, he's eating cake and milk. We'll see you next time.
So good.
Yeah.